The life you desire is within your reach. You can achieve all the success, happiness, and prosperity you deserve by simply learning the secrets that lead to real personal transformation. Change is hard, but not impossible. You just have to make one radical decision to get real. And there's no better authority on the real steps to change than David G. Evans.
Some men trust in chariots. Some men trust in horses. But we will trust in the Lord.
David G. Evans is leading the charge to bring you the power to change your life. He is committed to the mission of helping you transform and become a person of power, and it starts with his all-new system to change your situation. At the centerpiece of this life-altering collection is David Evans' groundbreaking training course. From ridiculous to radical to real, this means war. In this series, you will discover the steps to change. This series includes 2 powerful messages, each on winning the battle in your mind and cultivating a language of faith. That's 4 messages, 4 power-filled hours of material. If you want a better marriage, this series has the answers. If you want to achieve financial independence God's way, the secrets in this series will empower you to make it happen. If you want a life of power, anointing, and influence, this series will show you how to get it, and there's more. You're looking for serious, immediate results. So Bishop Evans will also include one of his best-selling messages called Weapon of Warfare. This classic teaching will build you up to start fighting in the spirit for what you deserve. This powerhouse collection, from ridiculous to radical to real, and Weapon of Warfare, will give you all the biblical strategies you need to change anything in your life. This collection will ship to you immediately with your gift today to David G. Evans Ministries. This ministry is revolutionizing the kingdom.
Well, praise the Lord, everybody. Welcome to On Point, the #1 Saturday morning Christian-based call-in talk show in America. Live every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. at David G. Evans 1 on any smart device. Why don't you share with someone? Tweet, text, inbox them, call them on the phone, tell them to jump on their device right now at David G. Evans 1 and join us for this live broadcast for the next 60 minutes. We have the most intelligent spiritual callers in the nation, in the world, and we're so glad you joined us once again. Our call-in numbers are 866-743-8267, 866-743-8267, 866-74-EVANS. Give us a call. Our world-famous co-host, Reverend Nicholas Smith, is here. Our outstanding staff is waiting to serve you once again. And for those of you just joining us, welcome once more to On Point. Pastor Nick, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
This has been a incredible week.
Yeah.
Culturally, politically, religiously. We've seen some particularly focused attack on people's voting rights this week.
Mm-hmm.
It is undeniable. The attack is coming in places where people of color are concentrated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for some of my Republican friends and colleagues to acknowledge that fact, but most of them are silent at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, for those people that try to give people the benefit of the doubt, there is no doubt that the attack in Michigan is a primary example. They want to validate all the votes in all the other counties, mm-hmm. except for the one
Mm-hmm.
that they lost.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense to me. And then the circus train has been traveling around with the chief clown, Rudolph Giuliani,
Mm-hmm.
and the assertions that he made the other day, had he been representing me, I would have been embarrassed.
Yeah.
How do you bring up Venezuela and Chavez?
Right.
He's been gone 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it it was embarrassing. I don't know why people couldn't stop him, but they are quite selective where they're saying those things. They're not saying them in court.
Yeah.
Because they can't really be judged legally by what they say in a press conference, but they can't present bogus information in court without being sanctioned and everything else. Yeah. They don't want judges coming down on them, but these legal forays, I want to call them, they're failing at every hand because it is ambiguous, I think, for your vote to count at any other time except when my president loses. He lost somewhere around 6 million vote difference popular, which that's unmistakable. He's going to have to rest on the fact that he had the second highest tally in history, but it's probably churning his butter that Biden has the highest and he doesn't. So to him, that's a major loss. Now that Georgia's come in, I don't know where the electoral count is going to be at this point, but
it's still the same.
It's the same.
It's still the same right now.
That margin, has it exceeded his yet?
It's actually the same as it was in 2016.
Okay, and I think part of his butter churning is not only Biden having as much, but with the possibility of having more. I think that's part of his anguish right now. Yeah. I'm watching this happen, and it feels like I'm watching a newscast from a third world country where they have dictators and their presidents or their kings or whatever you want to call them, their leaders, want to have their opponents arrested rather than run against them. Whether I'm watching things that are extraordinarily disappointing, and I'm really disappointed that some of my Republican friends don't seem to be concerned with their legacy going forward. And historically, I don't know what to make of that other than their hearts are being revealed at this point, or they've decided to either ride or die with this guy. But I can't see them deciding to implode their careers. What do you think?
I think that some of them care about the legacy based off their constituents.
Okay.
So you look at some of the
so they're worried about a clash from their voting.
So like Lindsey Graham, his opponent had a lot of people donate to him.
Okay.
But South Carolina is a very conservative state.
Right.
So mainly conservative. So it was the likelihood of him and like McConnell losing are slim.
I'm not a conspiracy guy.
Sure.
But I don't know how Jamie Harris went from even with him 4 days before, and then it looked like South Carolina just didn't show up for him. What happened to all those people? They say, did he get less than 20,000 votes or something?
I looked the number up. Well, thanks, Tim. I got to look the number up to see.
But it didn't seem consistent with the support that he appeared to have.
Right.
And the angst that Lindsey Graham had running against him.
Yeah.
Lindsey didn't act like he wasn't under a threat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why, to me, you could never trust polls.
Yeah.
Not in this time, you can never trust polls now.
Well, yeah. And the poll's not what I trust. I'm looking at the debate.
Yeah.
And Graham is not fighting like he's not responding to the press like he's not in a fight.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden there wasn't a fight.
I think he knows. When you go to my folks from South Carolina. When you go into South Carolina, it still feels oppressed.
Okay.
The feeling of it is.
Okay.
You go to North Carolina, it still feels a little free.
Okay.
You go to South Carolina, it still feels like
same.
a heaviness.
Okay.
Difference. And people that live down there will tell you the same thing. That North Carolina, just one state across, the oppression feels more palpable and real.
Wow.
In South Carolina. Well, you figure that's where when the state seceded from the Union during the Civil War times, South Carolina was the first one.
Okay.
So it's palpable in there.
Okay.
And I think that what scared Lindsey Graham some was all the celebrities and stuff giving this guy Jamie a lot of money. He raised a lot of money. But that was from people outside of the state.
Okay.
compared to those inside.
Now, is the black population in South Carolina significant or not?
Well, they are, but in comparison, they're still a minority.
But, no one was talking about the fact that they were actually burning down the post offices in counties where black people populated. I mean, literally burn. I'm amazed at the dominoes of efforts to hinder the vote, starting a couple years ago with the redistricting, and then coming up to the fact that actually sabotaging the post office before the election, promoting mail-in balloting, and then sabotaging the post office so that because they didn't realize that the number of people that were going to vote by mail were going to vote by mail.
Yeah.
So now we need to stop that. So we're going to take all these machines out of the post office and delay. And people responded by going early, mailing early, or either standing in line.
Right.
And then when that doesn't work, well, it's all a fraud.
Yep.
But is it, when my president was running the first time, he said the election was rigged,
yep.
and he won. So did that mean that he won by a rigged election?
Yeah, right.
His election was the fruit of the redistricting and a lack of response of people who had been redistricted.
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm looking at, now we get to, well, let's say it was all a fraud, but the margin's too wide. I mean, you don't recount like they did in Georgia 5 million votes. You don't do that.
Yeah.
You do it when there's like a 15,000 or is it a 4% or 3%?
5%.
5% difference. There's a 5% difference. Okay, we'll recount the votes. But in most cases, it wasn't 5%. It was like 100 and some thousand, 80,000, 90,000.
Yeah.
So Georgia says, okay, since we're Republican led, let's count them again.
Yeah.
And he still loses.
Yeah.
I think he gained 200 votes.
Right. In the Secretary of State, I'm glad is going against the governor, because the Secretary of State of Georgia, even though he's a Republican, is saying no, these votes are legit.
Yeah.
While the governor's saying we got to do this recount because there was something rigged.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. You're the governor of the state. You're allowing yourself to be depicted as a governor that can't run a safe election.
Yeah. Well, because literally when he ran for governor, he's the Secretary of State who oversees the elections, and he was running for governor at the same time.
That's the only reason Stacey lost.
Yep. Because he was able to change that, getting rid of those booths,
only
booths and stuff.
Only reason.
You're overseeing the election and running for governor at the same time.
50,000 votes, she scared the heck out of him.
That's a conflict.
He should have backed out from the position, but he didn't want to do that though.
But if there had been a different party in place, that state Republicans would have screamed to high heaven that this was a legal conflict of interest. You're not supposed to do this. They would have gone to court 20 times, to get him to step back at least.
Yep.
But a governor, these governors seem to be so silly that they don't mind the president saying, you don't know how to run your state.
Yep.
And they're saying, you're right. You're right. Whatever you say. It doesn't make any sense to me.
None at all. But we've been trying to find logic through these past 4 years. 5 years since he's been really running.
Yeah.
And some of this stuff there is no real mental, logical ration for.
And
Because he runs on emotion. There's no logic there.
I don't know why I thought my president was concerned about his legacy. I don't know what made, but knowing some of his history, not all of it, but knowing some of his history from a business point of view and the impact of his business practices in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And then what I hear from the people that I'm close to in New York, I don't know why I thought suddenly he'd be concerned about the aftermath that most of us call a legacy.
Yeah. Will you say platforms reveal you?
Absolutely.
They take
opportunity.
Yeah.
We do not rise to the level of our opportunity.
Yeah.
We sink to the level of our preparation. And what he has done is sunk to the level of his preparation.
Yep. It's who he is.
It has revealed that he was totally unprepared for this.
Yep.
But the number of people that identified with unpreparedness is significant and cannot be ignored.
Yeah.
But I also think that my African American friends who are Republican, I think I began to wonder, why aren't they saying, when they see their own people being treated so unfairly during the election. When they, blow away the right to vote and change the law on voting and redistrict, why didn't they speak up?
Yeah.
Because it impacts people that look like them.
Well, the only example I can give is what's Samuel Jackson's character in Django? That may be a little extreme, but him. That's him. That's what we're seeing.
Man, he played that thing to the T.
He did.
He made you hate him so bad.
Right, especially when he died, he hitting her, holding him just and people pass those around, like with Ben Carson and all that. They say that's what they. But again, the amount of black men that voted for Trump, this time around,
But compared to the total, it's an insignificant.
It's small, but you would have hoped that 19% of black men would see better.
I could say this. I don't think that there are a lot of people who can make the decision that yes, a party and some of their policies benefit them, but based on the social injustice, I cannot support them. I don't think people can make that division. I think what we're seeing is a couple people who've made a couple dollars and say, I want to protect this, and I'm willing to ignore what's happening in everybody else.
I've heard some like Candace Owen type black guys, black people saying, George Floyd thing wasn't a racial issue, and the stuff we see as race.
They can't admit it.
They're black, and they're saying that's not that's an isolated incident. That's not.
They can't admit it because, Pastor Nick, this is what happens. So let's take Miss Owens for instance. So she gets on camera. She says these things. She goes back to the Republicans, and they give her some more money to go back and say these things.
Oh, she making some good money off it.
Yeah. So it's a road show. It's not about really being concerned for her own folk until it happens to her.
And if she has kids with her husband, the world gonna still see them kids as black. Not mixed. They're gonna be black.
That's right. She has a white husband?
She has a white husband, yeah.
Okay.
They gonna be black.
Well, I have friends who are in interracial relationships, and one of the greatest awakening days for all of them is the day that their children come home and say we're being treated like we're black people. And it's like they actually are stunned that, they thought the world would see their children as people, but this color we have tends to be the most polarizing color in the world. You walk into a room, you walk into an elevator, you walk into a gym, it is absolutely a color that gets reaction from people immediately. And boardroom, it doesn't matter.
And the whole, even back to that 3/5 of the law thing, where if you were 3/5 black, you were considered black. They don't care, and that's what I'm trying to tell them. Like, you have black kids that are going to experience this stuff.
Well, you don't think you were witness that day. We witnessed it at a very respected religious level with one of our integrated couples and the reverend went to a meeting with us to a very revered church in Philadelphia. And at that meeting, the leader of that meeting made it clear that his children were welcome in the school, but they didn't want them in their church. It was clear. I adjourned the meeting after that, and then when we got back, I asked him, so what do you think of them now? Because he thought they were the cat's meow, the crust on the bread, the inbread on the loaf. He thought they were it, man. And they told him to our faces. I said, so you want the tuition, but you don't want the membership? And he said, well, basically, yeah. And this is a revered ministry in Philadelphia.
And there's a whole lot of them around the country still.
Yeah, I know.
And people, to me, there's nothing wrong. Black people have something different. Somebody from Mexico, somebody from Sweden, somebody from South America, they know their roots.
Right.
They can identify where their family came from, specific locations. Black folk don't have that.
Okay.
So, for instance, Smokey Robinson came out and said that he doesn't want to be called African American because he wants to be just known as American because we're all here together.
My brother is like that.
Okay. The difference is I can't connect myself back to a certain country in Africa now. The farthest my line goes back on my mom's side that I know of is slavery around President Buchanan's years. Before that, they have no clue who we're related to.
There's only one place that came from, though.
Yeah, but we can't. We can't look at like Sierra Leone versus.
No. We got continent.
There's no.
Yeah, somewhere over there.
Yeah, but I can't. Like most families, they can trace their family lines back to 1400, and most of us can only go back to 1800, if that.
You look kind of Kenyan to me.
but
you got a Kenyan look too.
But I got. But see, my mom's line, she's light because they have a lot of mixed couples in there.
Yeah.
And her line came from the slave owner.
Well, and that means you may have white.
Yeah.
You
see that side.
You have what they call Native Americans now. You have Indian blood. It's like our family does. But we go back, of course, to slavery.
Yeah.
And Nigeria. So it's I understand what you're saying, but I think we don't seem to understand our immediate history.
Yeah.
Like what we're witnessing now, this whole nationalist movement actually has its roots in the evangelical church in the United States. So much so that, my kids go to a Christian school. And I'm always in this dilemma about sending them there. I like the education they get. I like the exposure to the Bible. I tend to monitor what they say very closely. And I have to give them credit. It's not an overtly political environment. We don't hear that kind of talk at school. I don't know what they say in church.
Sure.
But at school. But the fact of the matter is that Christian schools were part of the reaction when segregation was banned by law and you had to integrate schools. The birth of those Christian schools was on the heel of them losing that case and saying you're going to have to integrate your school. So then the Christian schools were created.
Yeah,
that's where they came from.
And that's why we have to teach our kids. Can't rely on the school system to teach you black history. You cannot rely on them at all.
And I don't know why people are threatened by. I gave myself the answer right when it came out of my mouth. I know why people are threatened about African American history being taught, because to teach it in its fullness, you cannot deny the brutality of the slave chapter of the United States of America. You cannot deny it.
You can't do it.
So I think once again there's this. We want to take all that out of the book, so it doesn't really reflect who we are. But do they want the American Indian story taken out too?
Yep. They're trying to whitewash all of that. In certain states, they're actually changing the book. So we talked about it from slaves to interns to.
There weren't no interns.
Yeah, right.
No.
Instead of it being the middle passage, they just kind of came over. We brought them over on a boat to work here in the United States, trying to reshape the narrative.
They better not.
They in one place in Texas, they changed the wordings in the book.
Did the people that are impacted by that omission, that erasure, did they rise up?
Well, it went national. People were talking about it, but I mean, this is the area that they're in. There's not a lot of.
I got friends that live in Texas, and I don't know whether there's an intensity there that we're not feeling here, but sometimes I wonder how they live there.
Yeah,
because it's. Some of our Texas callers, give us a call, so we can get this thing. 1-866-743-8267, because that nuance may have gone unnoticed or unheard that you made earlier. That subtle change in atmosphere from North Carolina to South Carolina.
It's real.
It
is real.
Yeah. 1-866-743-8267, 866-743-8267. Let's go to Jonathan in Philly. Good morning, Jonathan. How are you?
Hey, good morning.
Jonathan.
Yes, good.
You doing all right, man?
Doing fairly well. But always ups and downs,
Oh yeah, that's life.
That's life.
Who's that? Frank Sinatra said that?
Yeah. That's life.
That's what the Bible says, dude. That's life.
Yeah, you bring up some good points here this morning I haven't heard elsewhere.
Okay.
We
try to do that.
Yeah, you do that. And I haven't this election post-election
Turmoil.
resolution.
Yeah.
Resolution. Resolution.
Turmoil.
Chaos.
Is what I'm saying is it's so tight. It could go either way, and I think judges, whether a judge rules this way or that way, makes a big difference.
Tight.
And I see this as being in the hand of God. God is really controlling this, and it could go either way, and I think he could decide either way right up until it's finally decided.
Tell me what indication you have that it's tight, and then tell me what indication that you have that God has not put this in the immediacy of the hands of people, but sovereignly still he's controlling the outcome.
Well, as I said, judges can have, there's a few judges, very few judges who can make very big changes.
Okay.
And the as far as the debate over the legitimacy of which votes are really legitimate, that's still a big question.
Well, let me ask you.
Now,
let me ask you a question.
solution.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, though, Jonathan. Do you find some ambiguity in that the votes are only illegitimate where my president lost?
I'm not. My mind isn't quite understanding that.
I'm finding there's some ambiguity in the fact that it's legitimate where he won, but only illegitimate where he lost. I find that to be ambiguous.
It's where he won. I don't see much question being raised there.
Well, there's no question being raised.
Right, that's the point.
That's my
That's the
point.
problem.
That's my point, Jonathan.
But I would think his opposition would be raising questions there, which they aren't.
Because
Well,
they know nothing was going wrong.
Because they know nothing was going wrong.
There.
They lost there. They're accepting that.
Okay.
They're accepting that.
Now I have a solution
Okay, go ahead.
that I've tried to propose several places, but I haven't seen it enacted on.
Okay.
There's a claim that a lot of votes are mass produced in the middle of the night and sent into these various places to change the vote. Now, what
So-
I say is if they're mass produced, they were not being handled in a normal way, and there would be a big difference in fingerprints. And I think the FBI should go in and check the fingerprints and see, are they normally handled with a lot of, a person's many different individuals' fingerprints, or are there almost no or the same fingerprints on a lot of them.
Okay, now here's something to add to that.
Okay.
So what you're saying is that if there's ballots being mailed in, now you follow me closely. A couple years ago, the Republicans started to set themselves in place for the Trump election by redistricting, and the redistricting purposely impacted certain groups of people in our country. That's a historic fact. They got it done across the country. Redistrict, and the purpose of that was to weaken those districts so that Republican Party would have the opportunity to win those districts. Wasn't that they didn't have people there. They changed the way people vote. Pulled the voting booths out, closed some stuff down, redistrict, said, okay, this is District 1 now. It used to be District 2. It's not anymore. They did that across the country. Then we get in office. Voting Rights Acts are being tampered with. We continue in office. And while we're doing that, we decide when the election gets closer, we're going to start saying it's illegitimate, it's illegitimate. But the problem with that, it echoes very shallowly because he screamed illegitimacy in the election that he won. It's hard to say it's rigged when you win.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying it's rigged, when you win it's rigged, and when you lose it's rigged. He never said it wasn't rigged. Then we move on a little further, and we decide now we're going to say, voting by mail is the worst thing in the world, when most of these politicians have been voting by mail for the last 15, 20 years. And then when it looks like people are going to actually do it, and they couldn't delegitimize it, what did they do? They pulled the equipment to process the votes out of the post offices. put a guy in there with that mission, pulled them out, and then disassembled the machine so they couldn't be put back. Then, okay, it's supposed to be a hardship to vote now because you're going to have to stand in line. So that's supposed to be a deterrent. People standing in line for hours. So they get the vote. People standing in line, visibly all over. Boom, here they come. Everybody's got observers, both parties in the counting places. What happens? He loses by almost 6 million votes and almost 100 electoral. Now it's still illegitimate. So now what do I need to do? I need you to go back in and disqualify not all the counties in the state, just the counties where he lost, but not just that, where the people of color voted. Now, there is no, you know me, I try to do balance all the time, I stay balanced, but there's no ignoring the succession of events that led up to this moment. If you got a rational mind, you cannot ignore what's happening.
Well, I acknowledge the redistricting, and the redistricting happens both ways when whichever party happens to win that house, and there's a new census, and
one doesn't make it harder to vote. Though.
One doesn't make it harder to vote, though. They made it hard. They made it hard for us to vote.
Well, unfortunately for the Democrats, I don't know, in the last decade, they lost a lot of state houses.
Mm-hmm.
So when the redistricting happened,
absolutely,
the Republicans had, but in Pennsylvania they redistricted over again. And there was a lot of debate about that.
Well, what happened was when they actually pressed the issue in court, they found out that the redistricting done by the Republican Party this last time was illegal. So some of it got reversed.
It was illegal according to the Democrat.
Democrat what?
The judges, the Supreme Court, Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
I thought Republicans controlled Pennsylvania.
Well, not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was the head there is the brother of the House Representatives guy that was indicted in Philadelphia. He was his brother that got him in with a lot of money.
But it's not just PA. It's North Carolina also. They did the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and judges shot those down there.
Yep.
Which
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina is a very highly, Republican state.
Yeah.
And you can't blatantly deny closing down a bunch of polling places and making everybody from one place come to only one location. That's just an obvious.
It's real obvious.
Trying to stop people from voting.
There was one. I thought it was Georgia that did that, but it was the Democrats, and it was it was a predominantly black district, and all the officials were black, and they decided to shut down and just have one place because it would be safer for COVID. Yeah, that's what happened. In one place.
The COVID changes are different from you actually eliminating polling places for people to go. COVID considerations are absolutely different than the administration eliminating places for people to vote.
Yeah.
I've got friends in South Carolina. Pastor Nick has family in South Carolina. They were burning down the post office in the rural areas where black people live, burning them to the ground, John.
Well, who burned them? I don't know.
Well, we don't know, but they got burned down.
Yeah.
Only in select areas.
Only in select areas, John. Not, and unfortunately, it didn't happen in white areas. Yeah. So people are already 60 miles out of town. Mm-hmm. They have a post office. They burn it to the ground. So now they can't vote by mail. So now they have to decide, am I going to drive 50 miles to vote? But the thing that happened that I think they miscalculated upon was the motivation. I remember my mother getting out of her sick bed, and she said, I may be in trouble. It may take me a long time to do it. She said, but I'm voting today. So it may have taken us, because of our favor in the community, I was able to park my vehicle right next to the curb and walk with her. It had to take us 15 minutes to get from the car to the building. And then we rested, and then was from the building to the registration table. Then we rested. Then was to the voting booth. Had to let her go in by herself. Waited till she came out, and then we took the half-hour trip back to the car. But she was determined to vote. Yeah. And I think what happened,
praise God,
I think the opposition and the hindrances actually fired people up, which is why now the president is inviting people from districts where he lost into the White House to try to get them to reverse their vote to validate the votes. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen, John.
Well, but it's legal.
It ain't
unethical.
It's unethical. It ain't legal for him to call the people in and tell them to change their vote, John.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
No, it isn't.
You can't do that.
You can't do it. That's interference.
It's called fraud.
It's fraud. It's
interfered with.
You can't do that, John.
Hold on. I'll get back there. Somebody else here.
The president can't call people in a state and tell them, I need you to change your vote. That's illegal.
Well, I'm just praying that when it's all settled, it's very clear that who won and what was
It's already clear, John. It's already clear. Let's flip it over, John. You're my friend. Let's flip it over. If President Trump had won by 100,000 votes, would it have been clear enough for you?
It still would depend on the legitimacy of the vote.
All right, let me ask you. If
I don't want him doing illegitimate votes either.
He's been doing
I don't
illegitimate.
want anybody doing illegitimate votes.
John, you got to admit he's not the most legal guy that we've ever had in the office now.
He's followed the Constitution in many places where Obama didn't.
Where?
Name one, John.
The DACA.
The Supreme Court held that up.
Supreme Court held that decision up, John. The Supreme Court system that you just said was legitimate.
He followed what the Supreme Court said.
Because the Supreme Court votes the
Supreme Court. He had to.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you missed it.
Obama set out a.
I threw you a softball, John, and you missed it.
Well, I'm not a good fast thinker. I'm not a good fast talker.
I hear you, man. We got to go. Okay.
Okay.
Good talking to you, buddy.
I just hope it's all clear.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty clear, John. It's pretty clear.
Okay.
If the vote over Hill, let me put it this way: if him losing the popular vote by 3 million people, and winning the electoral vote by 100 was clear 4 years ago.
Yeah.
This is clear, John.
Yeah. And there's no evidence of any of this.
And he said that election was rigged.
Right.
Okay.
But he won that one.
He won that one. Okay. We gotta go, John. Ava, how you doing?
How you doing?
We trying to make it down here, girl. We trying to make it. Ava, where are you?
Hello?
Ava, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, I'm sorry, I hit you on mute. I'm out couponing. I'm trying to get my life together.
That's how you get your life together?
Yeah.
It's therapy for me, flipping coupons, saving money, it does something for me.
Yeah, it does something for me.
Right.
I was calling because I said we were talking about the whole Christian school thing.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years ago when I was looking for a Christian school to put two of my girls in, because before COVID, some of my kids were homeschooled. They just weren't working out in a regular public school setting.
Okay.
And I was looking for a Christian academy and everything, and there's a couple local ones. And I always felt like there's a lot of bondage that happens in a Christian school, in my personal opinion. As far as, I don't like the whole you have to wear, a girl can't wear short, a girl can't, your hair got to be this way, and it was a lot of stuff that you had to abide by to go to. A uniform, I'm not meaning a uniform, boys had to wear, you couldn't wear pink or purple because it wasn't a boy color, you couldn't wear You know what I mean? Like just certain things that I didn't like about it.
Okay.
So we ended up going with an online one where they would still be home with me, and the schooling was through video. And even with those, the struggle was that it wasn't a lot of African-American inclusion in there. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the books and stuff like that is not representative of my kids. You get what I'm saying? As all these little dark-skinned black kids that's running around here.
Okay.
And there's not a lot that goes on into the thing. I like it for the schooling, and a lot of times they have like top-notch, like as far as like education and curriculum and stuff like that. But stuff like slavery, you know, stuff like that was always kind of glazed over. And, it's just kind of like, oh, well, most of the people in the South didn't want slavery. It was only a small amount of people that agreed with slavery. You know what I mean? It'll just be something, subtleties, like, that'll just kind of like they would put out there for that. So we are definitely underrepresented all the way across the board, even in public schools. Public schools kind of just like, depending on where you're at, because I went to Lane City High School, and most of my teachers were predominantly black. I think about it now that I was blessed to have as many, and a lot of them were black men teachers. So they made us learn stuff that they felt like we should learn outside of the curriculum. But now a lot of these kids don't have that option if the parents aren't reinforcing learning some of their own history at home.
Well, let me back up and ask you a few questions if I can.
Yeah.
When you were canvassing for Christian schools, did you have meetings with them or conversations with them to find out what they were teaching and whether they were including things that would make it inclusive for your children?
I sat down with one, and then I'm not the most patient person. Okay.
No,
So,
we never realized that.
The first one didn't go that well, so then I just started kind of asking, because I know a lot of people that frequent a lot of these. The problem is up here, I'm usually the only black girl in the group, so when I am getting feedback, I'm getting feedback from, not saying anything wrong with it, it's mostly white folks that give me feedback. So for them, some of these things aren't a thought, you know what I mean? It's not important for them to be like, oh, I don't know. Oh, it's great. We didn't. Okay, well, do you cover slavery? Well, we feel like we shouldn't cover slavery. Well, the one place that I did sit down with, it felt like they didn't want to cover slavery because they didn't feel like they wanted it ingrained into the kids that they were, slaves, and the mindset. And if we just don't teach it, they won't have to feel suppressed in an area. But my thing is history is history. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need you to really dwell over it for a long period of time. You know what I mean? And kind of, but we also can't just skip it and act like it didn't happen.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So
sure.
Like, I get the balance of it, but you can't just ignore it. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to, make it a whole year thing, but, we can't ignore it also.
I think in my weird way of looking at things, I think the desire to omit actually is an admission of how heinous it was.
Right.
Because if it wasn't that bad, they wouldn't mind it being there.
Right.
So I see things a little flip, I guess because it's my Bible mind, but I see the avoidance of it as an admission in this context because it is a stain on our country's history.
Right.
And it is also, there's a group of African Americans now who are trying to deny that stuff ever happened so they fit in better with the party that they've aligned themselves with.
Right, but we don't condone that foolishness.
Well, of course not.
About like regular folks, the regular African Americans, us. I feel like even if you were going to, let's say I said, okay, let's not overly press the slavery aspect of it, even if we were going to go there, then you have to, on the other side, also include African Americans in every part of history where they were and not continue to take things that were acquired or learned or developed or whatever by African Americans. You get what I'm saying? Because just taking slavery out, I feel, doesn't help the child build a better positive image if they're still not represented in history. If you're still saying that it was only a specific racial group that did this and it was only this, because then at the end of the day, kids ain't slow. You can look across and be like, okay, black folks still didn't do anything when that's not true.
Well, I
so
think
you can't have one without the other.
I think I'm getting ready to get, not in a controversy, but I'm going to raise a question because I'm I'm homeschooling our grandkids, and they have a history book now. And I've seen the Pilgrims. I've seen the Indians. I'm waiting for a chapter on how black folk got here.
It doesn't come.
Well,
Unless I'm saying my children.
I'm trying not to.
Your grandchildren?
Kindergarten and second grade.
Okay, my daughter was third grade, and it went from Pilgrims to Indians straight to the French and Indian War and how the Indians was killing all the colonials. It literally jumped from Mayflower to French and Indian War, and the Indians came over here killing everybody, and that's how that war came about.
But I don't think you can get to the Civil War without getting to slavery. So I'm going to, of course, raise the question and give them a chance not to make this error, because half of my granddaughter's class appears to be, let me say 1/3 of it, is children of color.
Okay.
And my grandson's kindergarten class, half of that is
children of color.
Yeah, about. So I'm waiting to see for the second grader. I'm expecting to hit him with this, and I hit him. I'm educating them outside the curriculum as it relates to who we are and what happened with us and all that kind of stuff at their level. But if you're going to teach them history.
Right, but we ain't got to give them all of it. You give them a little piece.
But you got to let them know this is what happened.
Right.
And this is why Lincoln is famous for getting us out.
And see, because you and Pastor Nick ain't got nothing else to do, y'all should just make a whole homeschool curriculum for us.
We ain't got nothing else to do.
Y'all ain't got nothing to do. Y'all just sitting here playing on the radio. I mean, what else you got to do? All right, guys, I'm going to get back to couponing. That's
Talk
my
to you now.
Saturday.
Save some money.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye. 866-743-8267, 866-743-8267. That's 866-74-EVANS. This is On Point, number one, Saturday morning, Christian-based call-in talk show in the whole United States of America. Reverend Nicholas Smith. I'm Bishop David G. Evans.
Dang,
We're having a good time.
Yo, this went by quick.
It went by fast. Let's go to Danny. Danny!
Bishop, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, man, how are you? What's going on down there in sunny Florida? You still raining, or you got the sun out? Is the sun out again?
Well, we got some sun now, and looks like we're going to be clear for maybe about 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
And things I would. First of all, good morning to you, Bishop, Pastor Nick, staff. How y'all doing?
Thank you, man. What's happening with your governor down there, man?
Man, I was just trying to ask some questions to see if you're getting the same situation.
Okay.
Have you received any information statewide as far as the distribution of the medication for the virus? Have they talked to you about the logistics of that?
You mean the vaccine?
Yeah, the vaccine, yes.
Well, from what I understand, this is the way it's going to go. The healthcare workers are first, then the seniors, then they begin the rest of the population. Now, the distribution problem that I see is that most facilities are not equipped to store a medication at 30 below zero. That's AstraZeneca's, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Theirs is 30 below zero. The other one from the other company, you can store it at regular refrigeration. So it means to me that the AstraZeneca one has very short shelf life unless it's... So I think that presents a delivery problem. Absolutely. Because not only do you have to, I don't think they can inject it in you at 30 below zero. I mean, it's got to... Not unless they got some way to do it. I'm no expert. That's going to present a distribution problem. The other thing is that the impression is that there's going to be about 800,000 initial doses. They're going to put some centers in certain places, which means more impoverished urban areas will not have centers in their neighborhoods, which means they're going to have to go out of the neighborhoods, which means there's going to be another service problem, because it appears as though the populations that are affected the most are not going to be in the neighborhoods where the centers will be open, because they can't do it at they can do it at some of the drug places, Walgreens, Rite Aids, those type of things. But those stores tend not to be in areas where people are most affected. So I think there's going to be a distribution problem. I think there's going to be a storage problem. I'm sure they're trying to work it out now.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we see this race is because of the money that's already been committed by governments,
Mm-hmm.
and the possibility of having a worldwide patent
Yes.
on the medication.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Okay.
the race is not about getting people,
Yep.
saving people. The race is about getting this thing to the market first.
Yep.
Because I believe the government, the United States, has already paid 2 of these companies, maybe 3, somewhere around $1 billion a piece,
Mm-hmm.
just to develop the drug.
Yes.
How can we rest
I
the
was-
safety of it?
I was talking to an allergist yesterday.
Allergists?
Yes, I went to the
Okay.
allergy doctor yesterday. She was telling me, she was breaking down how COVID works with the cells. She believes it was man-made.
Absolutely. I believe that I believe it from the beginning.
She said the way it mutates,
Mm-hmm.
she says we're going to be chasing a vaccine for years because
Absolutely.
the vaccine now is working for
Right.
this strain.
Yep.
And while these new strains are coming up, they got to come up with another vaccine.
Yep.
So she thinks it's going to be a while before.
The ingenuity of COVID is
Yeah.
that if I catch it and give it to Pastor Nick, the exact same virus in the same form that I have is not the one Pastor Nick catches from me.
Right.
Every human being is a kind of a laboratory for the virus. So you pass on something slightly different than you caught.
That's insane, man.
Okay. You're seeing the thing?
So it was a weapon.
Yeah,
It was made as a weapon. I believe it from the
Yeah.
very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was explaining
Now-
how the comorbidities and how it goes into
Yeah,
the cells of people
yeah,
that got
yeah,
diabetes
yeah,
and blood
yeah.
pressure issues and stuff.
Attacks vulnerable organs in the
Yep.
body. I mean, it's got a search
Yeah.
and destroy type of method
Yes.
to it. So it's really, I thought it, and here's my issue. And I think we've talked about this before. I don't know if you heard it, Danny. I saw the interview with the chief of the lab in China,
Mm-hmm.
where it supposedly had escaped from, how it got out.
Mm-hmm.
In the interview, the chief of the lab said it's impossible for it to have gotten out of here. I listened to it, played it back. It's impossible for the virus to have escaped from this lab. Let me show you why it was impossible. First, the admission was that it was there.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Saying it was impossible for it to escape means it was in the lab.
It was there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it did get out. But I don't believe it walked out.
Right.
Right.
I believe it was carried out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure whether it was just
You think it was accidental?
a population control thing for that nation, or whether it was I don't think it would be a weapon that they would want to use against a whole bunch of folk
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
around the world. But you never know about the diabolic mindset
Yeah,
of men.
yeah.
Right.
We're capable of phenomenal good
We're the worst.
and capable of phenomenal evil. So it's just, that's what I'm hearing. I'm also hearing that a negative test is not truly valid until you've been 14 days, because it takes 3 to 14 days for the thing to show up positive.
Yep.
Right.
So you get a test on the 1st of the month.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really clear till the 14th of the month, because you can get a test in the first 3 days after exposure and test negative.
Now, this is the thing that I'm seeing, is that the distribution of it is that if you notice that key people were fired from the Pentagon.
I saw it.
All right. Now, the military is in charge of the first part of the distribution of it. The other situation is that if this is so effective, I noticed that Ben Carson has it.
Trump's son has it too.
Yes, and
Giuliani's son has it now.
Trump.
Right.
Yep.
Now, why would Ben Carson ask the president permission to get the same treatment that he received?
Why did
Well, you wouldn't give him the vaccine while he was sick. But why did he have to ask?
Thank you. Thank
Right,
you, Bishop.
right. You in the
Thank you. Now you see what I'm.
Why did he have to ask? He's part of his team.
Yeah, right.
He's the doctor. Okay.
Hello.
Thank you, Bishop.
You would think he would have gone back to his hospital, which was Johns Hopkins,
Mm-hmm.
and they would have thrown the whole sink at him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you, Bishop.
All right, man.
All right.
Talk to you.
Be blessed.
Bye. Tom is our last call. Hey, Tom, we got about 2 minutes. How you doing this morning?
Pretty good. How you guys doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for calling us.
I know it's a quickie. Us forgetting about slavery. How
Yeah.
about Jews forgetting about the Holocaust? Not going to happen, and I don't think it should happen.
Yeah, they're not going to forget about it, and it shouldn't be forgotten. Just like we shouldn't forget our Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. My other thought is, this is a bad one. This is only my opinion. There's not going to be a peaceful transfer of power. He's going to validate himself one way or another to stay in office. My opinion. And it scares me. This thing calling people from Michigan into his office to have a one-on-one with
That's
delegates.
crazy, isn't it? That's so
That's
blatant.
amazing.
But I think it comes from McConnell and them saying we're just going to let him work this out, and it's we'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not good for the nation.
Nope.
And I don't think it's good for the Republican Party. But I also let me say something, and I hope I'm totally crazy. I'm putting this disclaimer out there now. I don't think he's going to the inauguration.
Nope.
I don't think he's going to welcome Biden into the White House.
Nope.
I believe he's going to leave, saying he's going to his golf course and not come back.
There are people close to him who have already put that scenario out there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Have left,
All right.
Yes, have left the White House. That he's not going on MSNBC. Said, he won't be there.
No, he's not going. He's not.
I think he's going to leave in the middle of the night, and that's going to be it.
And he's going to be tweeting the whole inauguration. That's all he's going to do.
That's all he's going to do.
Yeah.
You can see my mouth under this mask.
I don't know why I believe I've been ever since I saw the scenario working out.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see him being magnanimous all of a sudden,
Yeah.
doing what Obama did for him.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
I can't see him doing it.
Nope. Not at all.
And I'm loving the guy down in Georgia, the Republican Secretary of State.
Yeah, man.
Standing up for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And getting calls from what's his name from South Carolina.
They're getting death threats, man.
Yeah.
But Lindsey called him.
Yeah.
And asked him. And I understand yesterday he was not the only one on the phone, so he can verify or corroborate that these things were said to him.
They're trying to tell them to change this thing. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Hey, you guys have a great day.
You too.
And
now.
I'll be up there tomorrow.
Okay.
In Florida. So I'll be careful, though. I'll be careful.
All right, now.
All right.
Take care.
See you.
Bye-bye. Today we have our noonday service outside. What
Yes.
else we got going on, Pastor Nick?
Catch the fire. The turkeys. There was a line out there at 9 o'clock already this morning.
That's right. We have our
At Lindenwood High
giveaway. What
School.
time?
Starts at 10 o'clock, but they started early because there was a line out there.
Wow.
But we have a lot of turkeys, so
Okay.
hurry up and go out there before they gone.
Yeah, don't stay in bed and say I'll come around 12. You'll be out. You'll lose.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, so that's today and at the Croc Center.
Croc Center also, right?
Yeah, but I'm sure I don't know if their registration's still open, but if you want to go to the Croc Center, you have to call them at 856-379-4867. Again, 856-379-4867 to see if you can still register to get a turkey
You
there.
must register at the Croc Center to pick up a turkey. You can't just walk up.
Yeah, Lindenwood, you can.
Yeah.
At the high school.
Regular service time tomorrow, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we got 10 times better at 6, of course. And you want to subscribe to David G. Evans 1 and BBC of NJ on YouTube.
Yep.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
Well, another great day. Thank you for calling us. Thank you for being with us today. This has been the #1 Saturday morning Christian-based call-in talk show in America. That is On Point with Pastor Nicholas Smith. I'm Pastor David Evans, and we'll see you next time.